no retreat. Failures never taste the sweet. Science lessons learned in flight. Journey on to endless night. For the stars, we aim so high. The poor jet did kiss goodbye. For science and purple light, we'll keep flying through the light. Rocket launch with hope so grand. EJ's got the master plan. Thrusters burn to reach the moon. In his eye you see the tune. Orbit dreams won't be delayed. Lessons learned from missions made. Kerbal Kai will forge a path to the stars beyond this path. For the stars, we aim so high. The poor jet did kiss goodbye. For science and purple light, we'll keep flying through the light. Rocket launch with hope so grand. EJ's got the master plan. Thrusters burn to reach the moon. In his eye you see the tune. Keep flying through the light.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to EJ's coverage of Starlink 11-8. I do believe that SpaceX is live already, so we'll go over to there. How's everybody doing this morning? You guys got enough sleep? Did you get it? Did you get it? What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? You get that thing I sent you? Nice. Okay, what is sleep? I don't know, man. I don't see them live yet. Is Jared Isaacman administrator yet? Or he has to be confirmed by the Senate, Hugo. I don't know if that's happened yet. I don't think so. Dude, you could spend like an hour away from the news from like X or something and something ridiculous happens with space nowadays. Like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's good for me. It's really bad for my sanity. Man. Yeah, I don't see their cast. Dude, their cast yesterday was terrible. Like, just horrible. There we go. Okay. I got it.
Stage 1 lock slot is complete.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's going to be a rot. All right, so this is Starlink 11-8. This is out of Vandenberg. This is Slick 4 East at Vandenberg. The booster flying today is booster 1082 or 1082 for short. This is its 10th flight, 39-day turnaround. We got on board 27 Starlink V2 minis for low Earth orbit. This is the 15th. This is the 15th orbital launch attempt. SpaceX's 10th mission of 2025, and Falcon 9's 10th mission as well. I have seen all 10 launches this year. We are keeping the streak alive. Keep that streak alive. Keep that streak alive. I'm gonna change the lyrics so I don't get copy striked. It works. It works. Anyway, so we're inside of 2 minutes here for Falcon 9. We should have a ground gas closeout in the next 45 seconds here. Why is there a cat under the SLS core stage?
Stage 2 lock slot is complete.
Huh. I don't know. Because somebody, well, it has to do with Imager screwing up the GIFs. We'll just shut that screen off here, buddy. Oh well. Anyway, ground gas closeout. T-minus 1 minute and 20 seconds. What they're doing is evacuating the propellants out of the transporter erector structure here. Because the fuel and oxidizer line to fuel the second stage through those pipes right there, it was full because they just finished fueling. So they're evacuating the propellant, the gas, the oxygen out, and it turns to gas when it hits the atmosphere. 55. Falcon 9 should be in startup here.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There we go. That was a little bit of a late call. This Falcon 9 first stage 1082 will...
LD is go for launch.
Launch director reports go. 1082 will be landing on the drone ship. One of the drone ships, the West Coast drone ship. Of course, I still love you right now. When should SpaceX...
30 seconds.
When should SpaceX start launching out of Slick 6? Oh, I'm not sure. We can talk more about that in a second.
T-minus 15 seconds.
I'd like to remind everybody that this is a stream for covering spaceflight and space technology,
10,
and
9,
not anything else.
8,
Okay?
7, 6,
Sound suppressor
5,
should be turning on. There we
4,
go. Sound suppressor is
3,
primed.
2,
Engine ignition.
1. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9. Go
All
SpaceX,
right.
go Starlink.
Okay, we got a liftoff. Starlink Group 11-8. Taken to the early morning skies of Vandenberg
Vehicle
Space Force
is pitching
Base.
downrange.
Fairing vents have popped out.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Vehicles doing the pitch over and roll. Beautiful shot of the California coast this morning. Yeah, there's no marine layer on Vandenberg today, Brimo. That's a little jarring. Should get a call for power and telemetry here.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Told you.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Don't say it so nonchalantly, geez. Super. Yeah, whatever. Just supersonic. All right. Maximum dynamic pressure should be the next call here.
Max Q.
That's peak aerodynamic compression load induced on the vehicle during ascent. As Falcon 9 gets higher, it gets to a point, or accelerates. When it accelerates, it gets to the point where it can't move the air out of the way fast enough, and you get air compressing on the front of the vehicle. This puts a compression load on the rocket and tries to accordion the vehicle. So what they do is they throttle the engines back.
Back chill has started.
Okay, second stage thermal conditioning and priming has started. This is when they start moving propellants into the second stage for ignition. That will happen here in the next 45 seconds. Actually, in about 45 seconds as of that call. Looks like it's a little windy. Falcon 9 did a little bit of woo on the way up. That was a technical term. You can see that if you look at the plume is slightly asymmetric. That means Falcon 9 is pitching up to its velocity. Basically, it's going this way, but the first stage is pitching up. Now, why would you do that? Well, you do that to squeeze a little extra performance out of that first stage. You can see the first stage is aligning to its posigrade vector, right? Yes, these are actual words, I swear. It's aligning to its ongoing velocity here for stage
Main
separation.
engine cutoff.
There's main engine cutoff.
Stage separation confirmed.
Yeet! We got a good separation. Should get an upper stage ignition
And back
here.
ignition.
She's good. She's good. She's fine. Everything's good. Perfect separation.
Fairing separation confirmed.
Good call on fairing separation. Didn't get a shot from the second stage there, though. It's very interesting. We did not get a second stage camera last night either. Okay. Will we be able to see the fires? They'd be at the top of the screen here. It kind of goes away from the coast before that happens. You can see the plume, though, from ignition right there. It's a very clear day out in California. Very clear day out there. Beautiful. Crisp. I paid extra money for the telemetry today. So now the first stage is going to coast for a little bit. If you notice there's some puffs of smoke coming out, that's not smoke, it's just nitrogen. They're nitrogen thrusters. They basically have compressed nitrogen up in the top of Falcon 9. It's just being shot through those thrusters to keep Falcon 9 on an even keel. What those thrusters are trying to do is basically make it so when Falcon 9 starts getting back to entry interface, so when it starts getting into the atmosphere again, that the engines are pointed towards the prograde velocity. It's going to fly business end first for my absolute favorite part here. Meanwhile, second stage doing its thing. 4 minute 35 seconds. Second stage traveling at 10,000 kilometers an hour, 142 kilometers in altitude. First stage is starting to accelerate, indicating it's gone past its apogee, or highest point in its orbit, the highest point in its arc here. If you notice, the speed is 7,000 kilometers and increasing, and altitude is going down, meaning the Earth's pulling it back in. Dzień dobry. Grasno, what's up? One triangle bird.
Vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
That guy sounds really tired. It's following the nominal trajectory. Well, so there's the LA basin right there. You can see Coronado. You can see Coronado Bay there. I didn't see much smoke coming from over there, but who knows? See, that's Coronado. So that's San Diego. That's Tijuana right there. This is Baja California. That's LA, the LA basin right there. It's hard to see much smoke coming from over there. There's the Channel Islands. Guys in full employee mode. You're not going to see any smoke. They're both trending towards 100% containment. You might be able to see a few new starts. That's good, Tiggs. You know what, man? I'm happy. I'm happy that I don't see any smoke. That's good. I'm happy they're towards 100%
Entry burn
containment.
startup.
Here we go. Okay, supersonic retro propulsion happening right there. Basically, what Falcon 9 is doing is firing its engines to push the plasma that is accumulated from aero compression, what's called compression heating. They fire the engines to push it away. That the engine exhaust actually pushes your reentry heating away. Yeah, that's a thing. It's my favorite part.
Entry burn shut down.
And that keeps Falcon 9 in a cooler column of gas. I know what everybody's going to ask. What do you mean cooler column of gas, EJ? Those engines are kind of hot. Yes, they are. The engine exhaust is quite hot. Don't stand near it. It's not as hot as reentry heating, and that's all you need. It's not about being super, super cold.
Yes, is saved.
It's just about being good enough to be able to protect the stage.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Stage 2 lighting is, yeah, some really golden hour stuff going on there. I need to poop. 55-month resub. I bet we just watched your favorite part. You bet right. It's not about being cold. It's about being less hot. All right. First stage.
Stage 1 transonic.
Okay, stage 1 is now below 1.2 Mach. Here. Beautiful shot
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
of the Baja California Peninsula over there. Beautiful shot. First stage now entering the lower parts of the atmosphere. 4 kilometers off the deck, 1,000 kilometers an hour, and decelerating. As Falcon 9 hits the lower parts of the atmospheric density goes up and more air gets in the way, basically creating drag, slowing it down. But it's not going to slow it down enough.
Burn.
You need to fire the engines.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Here we go. Falcon 9 has initiated a landing burn to land on Of Course I Still Love You.
Guidance.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance, basically closed loop. Gridfin's doing some work to steer that stage back to the drone ship.
Landing leg deploy.
We got a call on landing leg deploy. Gridfin's lock into place. Falcon 9's on thrust vector control and attitude control only. Hitting a perfect
Stage 1
bullseye
landing confirmed.
on Of Course I Still Love You. Yeah, baby. Right in the center. Very nice. Very nice. Great way to start the day. Better than a cup of coffee. This is the Pacifica tenet. The Pacific Ocean. Pacifica is a car. It's launched out of Vandenberg. There we go. We have a positive perigee right there.
Shut down.
Ooh, yep. Staging velocity is 27,325. A little bit higher than the East Coast launches there. 27,325 at 138. That's a little indicating a little bit of a
park orbit insertion.
Got a call for good parking orbit. That's a little bit higher. These polar satellites are in a little bit higher orbit. Pretty cool. You've earned yourself a coffee. Thank you. Do you think we'll see international star bases? For example, Australia could help launch numbers and also recovery. Yeah, I think that could happen in the future, Dons, for sure. I rolled out of bed and watched this before my coffee, and now I'm awake. Well, now you can be more awake. You can be more awake with your coffee. Why didn't you stream Starship Flight 7? I was covering it for NASA Spaceflight, Phantom. If you looked at the Flight 7 coverage, I'm in it. I'm doing the commentary for NSF. I got roped into a week-long vacation down to South Texas, where it's just also as cold as it is here. It was great. No, it was a good time. If you watched Space News yesterday, there was some magic going on here. Let me show you. Do you want to see what my view was? I will show you real quick. Here, check this out. This was my view of Flight 7. You wanted to go, don't lie. All right, yeah, that's fair. So, Phantom, I did cover it. I just did it for my buddies over at NASA Spaceflight. See? This footage is used with permission. This is raw NSF footage, which is... Oh, baby. So that was my view. "2025 EJ is maximalizing." Gotcha. We're stream maxing in 2025. Where did you watch it from specifically? Rourke, I watched the launch with Das and Gene and Ereborus from the Margaritaville Hotel on South Padre Island. We watched it specifically from the roof. Is this the Vandy launch that scrubbed Sunday? I think so, Flavia, yeah. I love the title of the video. Click this now. I couldn't come up with a better name, dude, other than just click this. Dude, how about that, huh? Here. I'm gonna get you to the good parts. We'll get to the good part. Here, this is the good part. You ready for the fun part? Because here comes the fun part. Here, I'm gonna get over here. Dude, look at this. This part gets me so fired up, dude. Oh my god! That is so freaking cool. I can't get enough of this, dude. Please feed me more.
Fly, baby, fly.
Thank you, Past DJ.
Discovery.
Watch the
go at
vapor.
throttle.
Ready?
Do the thing. Yes. Come on.
Seeing some vapor on it.
Oh,
Come on, baby.
come on. Light it up. Yeah.
We got a light.
It's coming down. It's coming down.
Come on.
Oh, it's slowed way down. Down to 3 engines.
Come on, bring it on home.
Bring it on home.
Come on, baby.
Yes.
Oh my. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Dude.
Is that crazy or what? So, Phantom, that's what I was up to. That's what I was up to. That was the educational experience. Dude, I could sit here and watch this on repeat for the next like 8 hours. It would never get old, man. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's so good, dude. So good.
Oh, this is Space.
Blackness
I'm in
gives the stuff to
space.
Sasquatch. Thank you. Fractal had a tier 2 86-month resub in there. Thank you very much, man. Tell us how big it is in real life. The rocket, I mean. So, you suck. This is a 22-story building, and that's a 52-story building. So this is a skyscraper being caught by a bigger skyscraper. Time to wake up. I love refrigerators. What about free cheesecake sent to the room? Yeah. Dude, the deck of the OLM is 5 stories off the ground, dude. That is a small apartment building. That's a large apartment building, and that's a skyscraper. Have you recovered from all that? Team was very tired. Yeah, I'm all right. Did it feel like the booster was going to land on South Padre? For a second, Entropy, it looked like it was coming right at us. Yeah, but it turned. I mean, I tell you, that was really fun. I think I'll be doing that again. So whenever Flight 7 or Flight 8 pops up, we'll you know, be making an appearance down there again. Is the reentry heating on the Starship booster much higher than with Falcon? Yeah, a little bit, John. Sure. A little bit, yeah. I mean, super heavy
Go at throttle up.
by itself is as tall as a full Falcon 9 stack. So we just saw that Falcon 9. We just saw Starlink 11-8 lift off, right? Super Heavy is as tall as the whole stack. So it's a little bit higher mass, right? Now, terminal velocity, etc., you know, everything falls at under the same acceleration, but there's drag and all this other stuff. It's going a little bit.
Discovery. Go at throttle up.
The interesting thing is that it doesn't fly as high, but it goes faster, if that makes any sense. Falcon 9 flies a lot higher, and it does not go nearly as quick as Super Heavy. Super Heavy, so there's a reason for this, and this is going to be a little bit of a tangent, but I promise you I'll rope it back together. The reason why is that efficiency with first stages is how much energy you can put out, how fast you can get the let out, so to speak, right? First stages with higher thrust to weight ratios are actually more efficient, despite, like, I know that that's kind of separated from specific impulse, which is the efficiency of rocket engines in burn time seconds, right? If you have higher thrust to weight on your first stage, you are more efficient. Now, Super Heavy has a lot of go. It has a lot of get up and go. The get up and go got up and went up there real fast. You have 33 Raptor engines. you have 1.5 TWR at liftoff, and it only goes up from there. 1.5 thrust to weight ratio. So that means there's a lot of thrust and a lot more thrust, 1.5 times the amount of thrust coming out the back relative to the entire weight of the vehicle, the entire mass of the vehicle, I should say. Weight has nothing to do with it. Okay, so because of this, Super Heavy actually doesn't fly. It's actually not very efficient on paper. Like Falcon 9, if you looked at Falcon 9 comparatively to Super Heavy compared to its efficiency, it's actually, Falcon 9 is way more efficient, weirdly enough. But Super Heavy goes way faster. Like, it goes way faster in terms of like characteristic energy expended, right? So Super Heavy doesn't fly as high as Falcon 9, but because it goes so much faster, it's coming in a lot faster. So you do get re-entry heating on Super Heavy. It doesn't fly as high. It goes way faster. But the crazy part about this is Super Heavy, because it's made out of stainless steel, can just tank the heat. It doesn't need to do a supersonic retropropulsion burn to my... Not... That makes me sad because that's my favorite part. So... because it doesn't fly as high, but it's going faster, you do get a little bit higher re-entry. Like, it's a little bit hotter during re-entry, but it can tank the heat. If Falcon 9 tried to fly on this trajectory, it would blow up. Not even a judgment call. It needs to do the supersonic retropropulsion. It needs to do the entry burn, or else it would die. Important update. Intrepid is in first place at 36%, followed by Tranquility at 35%, and Square Hole at 33%, then Eagle at 31%, and Dragon McDragonface at 30%. Okay. But that's engineering in a nutshell, John. It's all trade-offs, you know? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, 1.5 TWR is nuts. That thing gets off the pad insanely quick. And it doesn't, like, we can go and look at that footage again, dudes, of liftoff. Because the vehicle is so freaking gigantic, it doesn't look like it's going that fast. Right, it doesn't look like she's booking at liftoff, but I'm telling you, this thing is getting off the pad extremely quick. Like, watch the nose of the Starship relative to the pad. That's fast, dude. It doesn't look like it, though, because this vehicle is 330 or 350 feet tall. It's a combined, it's a 35-story skyscraper. But it doesn't look like it's going very fast off the pad, but once again, just if you guys kind of just focus your eye right here on the gap between Starship and the tower, and you'll see that relative, it's moving very quickly. That's really fast for like I think it's 5,500 tons of propellant and vehicle. Like 11 million pounds of vehicle, if you want America units. Like, that's 11 million pounds of vehicle being shot up at a very high speed. And to think, Super Heavy flies like 6 times the speed of a rifle cartridge at different points. The thing is that it's not a bullet. It's a little bit bigger, so you can see it, and it doesn't look like it's going as fast. But this thing goes way faster than a rifle cartridge. Starship even faster. We're talking 6 or 7 times of like a speeding bullet. It's crazy, dude. Important question. Sweet Italian or mild? It's sweet. Sweet Hokey all day. I want to see Falcon Heavy Center Core do the same thing and survive. Not likely. It's like the F-14 of rockets. It just beats the atmosphere into submission. Yep. My Twitch isn't working, but Blue Origin just posted a flight recap. Oh. Oh, we're going to have to watch that. I want to see the Center Core do the same thing and survive. Yeah, Blackness. Yeah. I think I already answered. I think there was a chat delay there. Blue's got a new Glenn recap. It's going to look really weird with the title of the stream being, you know, Starlink launch coverage, but showing a Blue Origin recap. You know what? I don't care. Let's send it. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. Let's go. Send it. Let's do this. The stream is titled as a Starlink launch. Whatever. It's fine.
New Glenn is ready for launch of Blue Ring Pathfinder.
This is our first flight, and our key objective today is to reach orbit safely.
My name's Jeff.
GS1 at flight level.
Big water start.
3 ignitions, 2, 1.
Yeet.
Liftoff.
Oh, that's badass. That's so good, dude. Oh my goodness.
Checking for pressures are good. Vehicles clear to
Water, water, sir. Oh god.
Passing 18 seconds into flight.
Oh. Oh. I stared at the trap ray.
Separation confirmed.
And we have ignition on both B3Us. Chamber pressure is good.
Yeah,
GS2
baby.
is now orbital.
We've got to orbit safely. Congratulations, Blue Origin.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Very nice. So how much trust does New Glenn have compared to Saturn V? Let me do the math out here real quick. So Saturn V has about 35 meganewtons of thrust at liftoff. New Glenn's is 2,400, give or take, times 7. So that's 16,800 kilonewtons, so 16.8 meganewtons. It's about half. Well, a little under half. Nice, Hokey. Yeah. It's no spring chicken, man. Let me put it that way. I actually believe Saturn V is 34. We have 6,700 times 5. 34,800, I think. I'd have to go look. Is anyone making a space station module for a 7-meter fairing? I'm sure Blue is working on something, Sasquatch. Dude, okay. I think we can say this now, and I think it's important to say it. Blue is not just working on New Glenn. Blue has its fingers in all types of pies here. They're working on lunar landers. They're working on space station modules. They're working on modular satellite buses. They're working on everything. It's supposed to be end to end with New Glenn. I've even heard things that they might be working on some type of crew capsule in the future. I don't know. I know that New Glenn doesn't carry a human rating certification yet, but it could, and Slick 36 is equipped for a crew access arm. So, guys, like, I've been trying to say this, but it's hard to say it when Blue doesn't tell us anything. But they're working on all kinds of good stuff. I've even seen job postings on Blue's website for nuclear thermal propulsion stages. So, all that stuff might warrant a bigger rocket, don't you think? Just saying. Man, a future Blue Origin commercial crew capsule would be sweet. Or you do the Jeff Bezos thing and buy one, Grab Shark. That's speculation on my part, but it would read, wouldn't it? A buddy of mine who works there and builds B3U turbo pumps said had a lot of civilian experience working around nuclear reactors in the San Diego shipyards. I gotta think they fisted him for future NTR type projects. The bumps were fisted. What? Did I hear nuclear thermal? I think I just hit max Q. Yep. Is orbital reef still a thing? Oh yeah, Dave. Look, just because Blue doesn't tell you about everything doesn't mean they aren't working on it, guys. I mean, you'd be hard pressed, and this is not like he just got some inside sources. I don't do that. Like, I really don't like being like, well, I know that they're going to do this, but I can't tell you. Oh, well, you're just going to have to find out. I don't like doing that. So I don't. But here, let's just zoom in on Cape Canaveral here for a moment. Now, for whatever reason, the photogrammetry is from like 10 years ago, but you don't build out this big of a facility just to make New Glenn. This, we've seen the plans. This is for all kinds of stuff. The New Glenn factory is basically this right here. There's your main factory. These are supply warehouses, and these are test cells for New Glenns. All right. But Blue is building a gigantic other facility down here. There's a lot going on here. You don't build this big of a facility for just New Glenn. Let me put it like that. And that's not Blue's only big facility. They have a gigantic B4 manufacturing facility that they built in Huntsville a little while back. If we go up to... Go to old Huntsville. Please hold. It's over here. There it is. Yeah, see? It's a nice field. Or is it? Uh-oh. What was that? Uh-oh. You don't build out that big of a facility for, like, just one thing or the other. Like, that is a monster. That's a big facility, dude. So they have their propulsion stuff in Huntsville, right? And they also leased the 4570 test stand at Marshall, which is over here. That's the biggest test stand at Marshall Space Flight Center. That guy. This was used to test the first Saturn V first stage. Not a lot of people know the Saturn V first stage, the first one ever made, was made at Marshall Space Flight Center. That's SA500F. It was made at Marshall and tested here for the first time. This is the first time 5 F1 engines were lit simultaneously. It was on this test stand. And then NASA very quickly realized that this facility is not adequate for the build and test and flight rate that they were looking for with the Apollo program, so they built out Stennis instead. And they built out Michoud as a proper manufacturing facility for Saturn V first and second stages. Yeah, but Blue has this 4570 test stand right here. That's Marshall 4570. It is a gigantic testing cell, and they use it to test BE4s. It's no joke, dude. That's a gigantic stand. Hey, Yellow Ben, love your content, love your enthusiasm. Keep up the good work. Yeah, cool. Over here, this is ULA. That's ULA's Centaur. That was their Centaur 5 test stand. And these are SLS testing facilities over here, if you really want to know. There's a bunch of good stuff here on Google Earth if you go and look. This is the Saturn V dynamic testing cell. They stacked an entire Saturn V in here, but the launch mount is a gigantic paint shaker. Yeah, they used it for vibration testing. They don't use it anymore. It hasn't been used since 1981, I think. They used it for testing space shuttle stacks too, and then stopped. There's a bunch of other engine testing cells, and then here's the Saturn 1, the original Saturn 1 test cell with the first Saturn 1 stage ever manufactured sitting in front of it. They're going to scrap this, which is just a shame. They're going to scrap that test stand. They've already scrapped that thing. They just let it sit outside for too long, which sucks. But yeah, they scrapped that 2 years ago. First Saturn 1 ever made. They scrapped it. Yep. And they're going to dump the test stand because no one uses it. Which sucks, but hey, it is what it is. Onward and upwards. Let's go. Someone's using the test stands, so that's good. And then over here, it's under construction. This is the SLS tank dynamic test stand. That thing right there is basically a gigantic hydraulic press that they use to do dynamic load testing on SLS tanks. They put SLS's hydrogen tank in this thing and crushed it. Yeah, and then it blew up. It was really cool. They did that back in 2019. I'm not sure what that stand is being used for now. Probably EUS testing if I had to guess. But yeah, That's a little tour around Huntsville. It's pretty cool, man. But Blue has a lot of facilities here, dude. They have a lot of facilities. You don't, the gist of what I'm trying to say is that you don't build all this stuff and just worry about like rockets and Blue Ring. They are absolutely working on space station modules. They are absolutely working on lunar landers. They are absolutely working on Blue Ring, Blue Reef. They're definitely working on nuclear thermal propulsion systems. Like, I could say that with pretty reasonable conviction. You don't build out all these facilities just to not do that, you know? Oh, that was a replay of the Starlink cast because X decides that it wants to embed this. Okay. Blue Glen. Can we get a tour of Michoud? Yeah. Very cool. Just joined. Care to comment on outlook under the new president? Friend, I talked about this yesterday, dude. I don't know. I don't mean to give you a non-answer. I don't know. It is extremely difficult to predict what's going to happen here. Now, I can tell you what I want, what I would want to happen, and what I think NASA and SpaceX and Blue Glen, I was about to say Blue Glen. It's a freaking earworm, dude. I'm telling you, it's a freaking earworm. John, why would you think I would want to talk about that here is my question. You know me. You've known me for over a decade. Why would I want to talk about that here? Honest question. What makes you think I want to talk about that? What, why would you ask that? Anyway, moving on. It's hard to say, friend. It's hard to say. There's what I want and what NASA really needs. And this is honestly going to sound ridiculous. NASA, it isn't anything that I haven't said over the past 10 years. NASA needs an increase in budget, but it's not just more money. It's not just more money. NASA has plenty of money. They don't spend it very well. Their capital allocation is garbage. And that stems from really just not having a really good plan as to carry out what they're trying to do. I'm hoping that if Jared Isaacman gets nominated as NASA administrator, he has to go through a Senate confirmation. No word on when that's happening. I'm hoping that when he goes in there, he really basically re-baselines the entire contracting structure for the Artemis program. Because the way these contracts are set up, the bottom line is the way the Artemis program is set up is not what's called in spaceflight or just any type of like industry. It's not hardware rich. Artemis has a very low frequency of flight, friend. It has a very low frequency of flight. It's not hardware rich. And in this particular case, that's a really bad thing. If you want to, because the purpose of the entire Artemis program is to sustainably explore the moon and stay there. You don't do that by launching 1.5 times or one time every 1.5 years. That's not happening. That's not sustainable at all. Right? And you really, what NASA needs to do is find the balance between political sustainability and actual scientific and exploration sustainability. They have to find a balance here. That's really important. So the way that the SLS contracts are set up are for maybe doing a mission, maybe next year, and maybe sometimes another mission after that. We can't do that. It can't just be like kind of a la carte, okay, what's the next mission? We don't know. We need a clear and set goal for the Artemis program. And now the Artemis program does have a pretty good defining goal, right? Its goal is to go to the moon and go there to stay, and then maybe use that as a way to figure out how to go to Mars. That's the idea. That's too abstract, to be honest with you. That's too abstract. It needs to be, now that can be your long-term goal. That's totally fine. That's a great long-term goal. That is a horrible short-term goal because there's no, okay, we might maybe want to go back to the moon, maybe sustainably, and maybe learn how to go to Mars sometime in the 2030s. What does that mean? What does that mean? It's very abstract. It's abstracted, and it's abstracted on purpose because there's a good reason for that. But it's abstracted on purpose because somebody tried to pull the rug out from the entire space program in 2010. They tried to just basically pawn our entire national space program off to commercial. Well, not a bad thing. The whole thing that made commercial successful is that it had a NASA facility to scale to. Commercial crew would be useless if the ISS wasn't there and the space shuttle didn't build the ISS. You have to have an anchor point in space. If you don't, you're scattering the commercial market to the whim. And with the commercial markets with spaceflight, there's not a high demand for launching from a commercial standpoint. Now, SpaceX is an anomaly in this regard because Elon is hell-bent on going to Mars. And that's what they're really trying to do. And he's using Starlink as a viable funding avenue for funding this goal, right? But every other commercial company, a lot of commercial contractors rely on NASA. Look at Blue. Even Blue, with deep pockets from Jeff Bezos, is still looking to bag NASA contracts for SLD, for the Escapade mission. They're still looking to bag contracts because NASA is a good way to stimulate the commercial market and grow it, and maybe grow it to a point where they don't need NASA anymore. I mean, I really don't want that to happen. But okay, I'm getting a little off track here. The idea is that NASA flying 1.5 times a year because their contract structure is awful and their short-term goals are even more awful is basically going to, it could potentially stagnate the entire exploration market, with the exception of like SpaceX, right? And even then, SpaceX, hell-bent on going to Mars, still wanted to bag a lunar lander contract, and they did in 2020, right? Starship HLS, which is great. That's fine. That's all fine and dandy. But once again, without the Artemis program for these commercial contractors to kind of scale to, you got nothing. So what I'm really hoping is, and friend, I know this is a super long response. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to waste your time. What I'm really hoping is that when they go in there, they understand this. You need a national space program to scale your supplemental commercial missions to. Without that, that's the only business model that has worked with commercial in the past. The commercial crew program, commercial orbital transport services. If you don't have something to scale to, there's nothing for the commercial market to scale to. And then you're kind of scattering your entire program to the wind. What they need to do is revamp the entire contract structure for Artemis. Come up with a short-term goal. I'm thinking moon in 2026 or 2027 or even 2028. That's fine. It might take a second to restructure all the contracts, but the procurement mechanism for SLS is giving you basically a very hardware lean program. And that's not what we need if we're going to sustainably go to the moon. That's not what we need. That's bad. That is awful. NASA's architecture is so hardware lean that NASA is delaying Artemis 2 because they're not sure if Orion's heat shield is going to work correctly because, frankly, they've only tested it once on Artemis 1. NASA said they are doing this under the guise of safety. We'll launch when we're ready. We'll launch when we're ready. Well, the reality of the situation is that you do not have a choice, because Orion doesn't launch on anything but SLS. And because there's not a lot of SLSs, you can't test that heat shield again. And the next flight's going to have people on it. See what I mean about a hardware lean program? That is dangerous. It's very dangerous. Because you're throwing a lot of stuff up in the air because you don't have a choice. You have to put that capsule on SLS to fly. And because SLS is only made like once a year, right? You don't have a choice. You want to get people to the moon next year or this year or whenever, right? You have to put them on that Orion, and you're not entirely sure if that heat shield is going to work. Now, what NASA's going to do is change the reentry trajectory a little bit so the heat shield doesn't break with people on board. We've seen the fruits of that labor in the past. Don't want that, right? But this forced them to basically redesign Orion's heat shield for Artemis 3. This is what I mean. You're not this hardware lean program is screwing us right now. NASA needs to restructure everything and move to procurement of launch vehicles instead of development of launch vehicles. Now, what do I mean by that? The SLS core stage, RS-25E, the 4 RS-25E, the screen is off right now. The 4 RS-25Es, the 5-segment solid rocket boosters, that stuff's all good to go. You need to switch that from development contracts to procurement, i.e. buy in bulk. Now, SLS does need a better upper stage. It's upper stage right now, the ICPS. First of all, the assembly line for those things is get up and go, got up and went a long time ago. ULA doesn't make that thing anymore. They only have 2 ICPSs left. One of them needs to be used to rendezvous with Starship to get down to the moon. The other one needs to be used to test. Once again, hardware lean is screwing you. That's what's delaying us right now. You can't test it. Right? Not good. You need to drastically increase the amount of Orions we have, the amount of SLSs we have, and potentially even look at something to test Orion in low Earth orbit to get that heat shield dialed in before you put people on this thing. Dude, the Artemis 1 heat shield lost a chunk of heat shield about this big because of permeation of the heat shield. Basically, heat got behind the heat shield. It permeated through cracks in the heat shield, and the plasma came in and basically ablated the heat shield from the back, that's a big no-no. That's death if you don't know what you're doing. That's really bad. So, like I said, friend, this is a little bit of a long response, and I apologize for it being so long. That's the only way to really explain this. That's what I want, and that's what I hope they do. But at the end of the day, I can't really say what they're going to do. I have no idea. We are looking here at potentially the biggest wild card for spaceflight I've ever seen. In all of my years covering this stuff, I have no idea what's going to happen. When Jim Bridenstine got in, it was fairly predictable for what needed to be done with the Artemis program, right? It was fairly predictable. But I don't, dude, I have no idea. We are in uncharted territory, dude. Yeah, Tessa, you need, Artemis's long-term goals are great. Their short-term goals are caca. And that's from the hardware lean program. There's not enough SLSs, there's not enough Orions, there's not enough ICPSs, there's not enough. It needs to be rebaselined, and you need a more comprehensive program to achieve what Artemis needs to do. If you don't do that, SLS is going to fall to the wayside because Starship will eventually eclipse it. And remember what I said about NASA needing to lead the way. If they don't lead the way, you're scattering your commercial market to the whim. And that's not a good idea. Even at this point in time, even if it seems like SpaceX cannot be stopped, I still don't want to do that. Do you know why? The commercial market is volatile. That's just how it works. It's volatile. Everybody said that America Online if you cast your mind back to 1997, AOL is the premier internet service provider. They ain't going anywhere. They had like 60 to 70% market share of all internet service providers in North America. And then 10 years later, they were gone completely. Don't screw around with this stuff. Our national space program is at stake. Yeah, Yahoo in the 2000s, Pete, another great example. Everybody, Yahoo is the search to go to. Yahoo's the search to go to. And then a little company named Google came along. Oops. Do you ever miss Steve Jurzik as NASA administrator? Sly. Respect to Steve. What happened to him is awful. My thoughts are with his family. Steve Jurzik was pretty good. He was only an interim, though. Jim Bridenstine was great. He was great. And Bill, I think, has done an okay job considering he carried NASA through a pandemic, which made things very difficult, for sure. Alta Vista. Ask Jeeves. Yeah, right? Don't apologize for the long responses. It's why we come here. All right. So, yeah, friend to all, that's the response. What do I think is going to happen? I have no idea. I'm hoping that what I said happens. Dude, I really hope that Elon and Jared Isaacman and Jeff Bezos and the president know, or at least Elon's whispering in his ear that this needs to happen. It's hard to say at this point. I don't know. I know that Elon is pretty much all pro-commercial, and that's fine. I mean, he has some vested interest there, I would say. But also, because he has vested interest, you should be careful heeding his judgment there. And I'm not saying that because I hate Elon either. I'm a very big fan of his companies. I like Tesla. I wouldn't buy one, but I like it. And I love SpaceX, right? SpaceX has shown that a commercial space transportation company is viable. They've showed it, and they've galvanized the entire industry to grow. It's all because of them. Like, you can't sit here and say that it isn't. So I'm hoping that when Jared Isaacman, if he gets confirmed by the Senate, that the Senate is asking these questions, because Congress ain't going to let him get rid of SLS. And frankly, I think that would be very bad for spaceflight. Pulling the entire rug out on your space program is what got us SLS in the first place. That would be a very big mistake. I would not do that. What I would do is champion that program and get it up to snuff so it achieves parity with SpaceX. That's a good idea. That's what you should do. That, unfortunately, is going to cost money, but once again, we're in a little bit of a wild card scenario, right? That might happen. That's possible. And that's what I would want. It's definitely possible. It's not that you can't mention greetings, Doomsday. It's just I don't really want to talk about it. The second you go bringing up that conversation about what Elon did and what Elon didn't do, it derails the entire conversation into just a political rhetoric conversation. And that's not what I'm trying to do here. We talk about hardware, and we talk about procurement, and we talk about contracts and policy. That's none of that. Dude, you gotta understand it from my point of view. Dude, the second somebody starts saying, "Oh, did you see what Elon did the other day?" Now we're a tabloid. That's no good for me. That's no good. We're not conveying anything of substance there. If we're doing tabloid space journalism, I don't do that here. You know what I mean? No, it's all good, dude. You've said it. A bunch of other people have, like, people are wondering why my mods are just axing anything that has to do with rhetoric. That's why. I want to stick to the policy and conversation and hardware. That's what we do here. This is a STEM stream. I have no biases for politics in this venue here. I will only say that I will always argue for more spaceflight policy because I love spaceflight. That's my only axe to grind here. You know what I'm saying? 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 You know, like, that's what I do. Like, if you want to go discuss, like, what Elon did or didn't do in his greetings at a speech the other day, just go do that on X. That's where he himself would encourage that conversation. That's too many. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You sure? Should I do another one? When is the NASA administrator introduction? Okay, so Doom, here's what happens. So the president has to nominate a NASA administrator. In this particular case, he nominated Jared Isaacman of Polaris Dawn Inspiration 4 fame, the Polaris program, right? That's fine, but now the NASA administrator has to go through what's called a Senate confirmation meeting. The Senate is one of two branches of our legislative branch. We have a lower and upper Congress here. The Senate is the upper Congress. The House of Representatives is the lower Congress. The House of Representatives, it basically writes up the legislature for funding. The Senate confirms that funding, and they find a happy medium there. The Senate is used to basically make sure that Jared Isaacman has Congress, as a stakeholder for our national space program, makes sure he has their best interests at heart. Now, but at the end of the day, the president does choose NASA's goals, and Congress has to agree on those goals. So if you do something ridiculous, like say we're going to go to Pluto next year, the Congress would be like, no, no, we're not. we did that would never work. They have to come to an agreement here. So there is some checks and balances at the federal level with NASA. I mean, NASA's a federal organization, so there you go. He has to go through a Senate confirmation, and in this Senate confirmation, they're going to cross-examine Rook. He gets put in front of a panel of congressmen on the Commerce, Justice, and Science Committee, and they're going to ask him questions about what he intends to do with NASA. And then the Senate will vote based off of this cross-examination and testimony from this Senate confirmation. The Senate will vote. There's 100 senators, 2 senators from every state. He has to get a majority. If he doesn't get a majority, nominate another administrator. I think Rook will do good things. Personally, I think he will do good things. I really hope he doesn't pull the rug out from under the Artemis program. That would be a very bad thing to do in the long term. We are still paying for the last time that this happened. In 2010, the 2010 NASA Authorization Act basically pulled the rug out on our national space program, canceled Constellation, and retired the space shuttle. And then we had nothing. And we got SLS in place because Congress was like, the hell you're going to do that, boy. And signed in a rocket vehicle architecture by law that NASA had to follow, regardless of what the executive branch said. That's a big problem. We are still paying for that. I will say it's a colossal frick up 15 years later. Actually, more than 15. No, yeah, 15. That was 15 years ago. Wow. We're still paying for that. SLS in the hardware lean program I was talking about is the fruits of that labor. That was a colossal screw up when it happened, and I've been saying it's a colossal screw up ever since. That was Charlie Bolden, right? Well, yes and no. Has he given hints on how he leans with the Artemis program? The most criticism I can find for Jared Isaacman is basically what I've been saying, Sig. Rook has been critical in the past. He wrote a post on X in 2023 about how NASA is awful at capital allocation. And you know what? I agree with him. That's absolutely right. NASA is awful at spending money correctly. It wasn't always this way. NASA's awful at spending money because they don't really have a good short-term goal. You know? If you're going to sit here, like just a conditional hypothetical for you, if you will. If you're going to sit here and tell me, say you want to start an automotive company, right? And you want to mass produce tractors or something. You don't build a gigafactory first. If you tried to scale a startup to high-level mass production, you will fail. You will fail miserably. You don't go from step 1 to step 20. Okay? Right? You're going to fail. That's what NASA is trying to do. NASA is trying to run a program that should be more hardware rich than the Apollo program, yet they're struggling to procure their next rocket and launch their next rocket on an expedient schedule. NASA is trying to scale because they have no short-term deadlines. If you want to mass produce tractors in this conditional hypothetical, you start by building a prototype. And then you start trying to make that prototype. You start trying to make it. You don't immediately scale to like 100,000 tractors in 1 year. Maybe 100 tractors 1 year. And then maybe 1,000 the next year after that. And then maybe 5,000 the year after that. And then maybe 10,000 after that. You scale up. All right? You don't start by trying to make 100,000 tractors overnight. That doesn't work that way. You need deadlines. You need scheduling milestones. NASA's space program right now, the Artemis program, is basically trying to scale in this conditional hypothetical. They're trying to scale to 100,000 tractors. And look, we've gotten nothing in the last 15 years from them because of it. Right? See what I'm saying? Also tractors. Also, make sure your tractor works completely before scaling. Yep. What milestones are you more likely to miss? Deadlines and it's streamlining the development. Hey, Graham.
Oh,
You mean we can't build a
this is space.
gigafactory in the
I'm in
desert
space.
without scaling properly first? Weird how that works. You can't, and you definitely can't scale rockets like this, the way they're doing it. Yeah. We need to start. If it was me as NASA administrator and I got confirmed, I would be working to scale the SLS program to 2 launches a year over the next 2 years. So by 2026, 2 SLS are ready to go. By 2027, 3 SLS are ready to go. By 2028, 4 SLSs a year are ready to go. And then you leave it at that. 4 SLS launches a year is enough to sustainably and scientifically explore the moon. That's perfect. That's fine. You don't need to do any more. SLS doesn't need to launch every day like Starship. It's not built for that. It's not designed to do that on paper. It's a scientific exploration rocket. That's fine. 4 a year by 2028 is excellent. We need to be running like the Artemis 27 mission by the end of the 2030s, or by the end of the 2020s. Are you worried about privatized science for ethical reasons? The public should know. Yes, Satanic, absolutely. I don't think I've often talked about an inflection point in the past. This inflection point is basically when Starship gets a human rating certification. And anybody that thinks that that's not going to happen in the next 5 years is crazy. Starship is, Flight 7 was a little bit of a setback, but Starship is making insane strides for that complex of a vehicle. It will get human rated eventually. My guess, if I had to put my money on it, would be 2028. If Starship gets a human rating certification, and SLS is still flying once a year, everyone will have a hard time justifying SLS existing, right? Because for some reason, we need to run NASA like a business. Everybody thinks we need to run NASA like a business. So if NASA's wasting money, it's the same argument as the post office. Everybody's like, oh, the post office operates at a loss. I'm like, yeah, the post office also provides civilizational groundwork that people just don't take into account. That's like saying a road is operating at a loss because you don't profit off of it because there's no toll booths. That's a really stupid argument. That's a really bad way to look at it. NASA needs to have parity with SpaceX. They need to. They have to. If they don't, we're looking at a potential catastrophic loss in funding for NASA. And that loss in funding will have ripple effects through the Science Mission Directorate inadvertently. Canceling SLS would be cutting NASA's budget in half, guys. That is an extraordinarily bad idea. And if anybody says, oh, just give the money to SpaceX, that's not how government capital allocation works. They don't work that way. It doesn't work like that. You have 6 inches of snow in Houston, Jojo? Oh my goodness. We're coming to an inflection point, dude. And that inflection point is when Starship gets its human rating certification. And it will. It absolutely will. You'd be off your gourd to think SpaceX wouldn't do it, isn't pushing for it, right? When people can go down to Boca Chica, get into Starship, fly on Starship, refuel it, get it out to the moon, and do whatever, there is a very hard time justifying SLS's existence. That's bad. SLS needs to cement its position as a scientific exploration rocket that's hardware rich 4 times a year by the time this happens. If you don't, Congress will be like, we could save money by flying on SpaceX, and they'll get rid of it. That's a bad idea because now your scientific exploration is totally 100% beholden to commercial entities. I don't want that. I love SpaceX. I don't want that. I don't think even people at SpaceX want that. That's an extraordinarily bad idea. Baton Rouge has 6 inches of snow. it's ridiculous when Texas and Louisiana have more snow than what I have in Massachusetts. But then again, I live close to the ocean, so we didn't get a lot of snow. So, yeah. Sorry, friend to all, if you're still here, dude. That was an extremely long response, but that's the only way I can explain that. I try to keep my responses as short as possible. I'm not gonna Alex you guys, okay? But not saying bad anything about Alex. Alex is my boy. Is the payload for New Glenn more on par with Starship or Falcon Heavy? You said moron, Tim. Okay. New Glenn can do, I think it's 45 tons to Leo with reuse on GS1, on Glenn Stage 1. That is that's like between Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. Falcon Heavy can do 70 tons, but there's a caveat to this, dude. The caveat is that Falcon Heavy can do 70 tons to low Earth orbit, but Falcon Heavy was not designed to move bigger payloads into low Earth orbit. Falcon Heavy can do 70 metric tons to low Earth orbit because it's designed to shoot satellites into geostationary orbit. That's its purpose. It's not designed to shoot a bigger payload into LEO. It's designed to shoot a smaller payload into geostationary. Smaller payload being a 5 to 10 ton geostationary satellite. It was designed to service that market, which is ironically going away because of SpaceX's proliferated LEO constellations. It's that market is going away. Geostationary sats, the market demand is going down for those because of PLEO constellations like Starlink or Project Kuiper or OneWeb, which is really funny to me. I think that's hilarious. SpaceX built a rocket for a market that they killed inadvertently. That's why when Falcon Heavy first launched, Elon was like, I don't know if we should have made this. I don't know if we should have made this. Like, maybe we should have, maybe not. Right? Weird, huh? Oh yeah, Boom's updates are awesome, Bargon. We'll talk more about that during Space News. I want to show you guys how they jerry-rigged a Starlink into the cockpit of the XB-1, which is super cool. The military wants it, Tessa. Yeah, especially with the extended fairing. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure, guys, that's the reason why Falcon Heavy exists at all. Because Uncle Sam wants it. And let's be real, Uncle Sam pays real good. Uncle Sam's got some deep pockets. Deep pockets. That was awesome, thanks. Yeah, no problem, friend. Yeah, sorry, that's a little bit of a long response. I'm trying to... I've given that explanation like 4 or 5 times over the last couple of days. And I'm trying to shorten it in my mind. I'm trying to shorten the essay to like 5,000 words, and I can't. It's just a really complicated thing. The long story short is that we're in a wild card. I don't know what's going to happen.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
I don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty here. It could go any way. It could go either way. Sup, 35-month resub. XB1 is about to break the sound barrier. Mach 0.95 on the last flight. Great. Military money is 50%, 100% of American money. You guys, the funny thing is that the military, if you look at Uncle Sam's expenditures, the military is a small percent of the budget, believe it or not. You can go look at our budget and how it works. There's plenty of resources out there to go look. The military at $800 billion is like 10 to 11% of the overall budget. Oh yeah, go look it up. NASA is like 1%, dude. Yeah, that's how much money Uncle Sam has. Falcon Heavy is getting Slick 6 because the DoD wants it as a great replacement to Delta 4. That's right, NG. Yep. I don't know, Serge. I don't want to invite that conversation in here, which is why I said just go look it up, because that's getting a little way away from space policy, dude. Slick 6 is for Falcon Heavy. Yep. Guys, don't get into that conversation in here. Come on. Don't. Just don't. We don't need that we don't need social media leaking into this stream, okay? Like I said, I'm trying my best to avoid it, okay? I'm trying my best in an era of complete ridiculousness to have some sanity here. This is a refuge for some sanity, okay? I'm trying my best, dudes. Don't make it harder for me, please. See last. What's up, Brendan? Is Blue's lander a one-time use? It's going to eventually be multiple use with refueling. Hey, X-Wing, what's up, man? Are you more excited for Titan Dragonfly or Europa Clipper? I like Dragonfly, just because helicopter. I like helicopters. Are there any more of these types of missions coming down the line? Yeah, of course. Nothing right now. Titan Dragonfly would be the next big thing, X-Wing. Is New Glenn's upper stage meant to land later? I don't think so, Supersonic. I think New Glenn's second stage will eventually be designed to be refueled. It's designed for on-orbit refueling and a cislunar... Oop, I dropped my wedding ring. Put that back on there. It's designed to be refueled in a cislunar architecture. You gotta understand why Blue made New Glenn the way that they made it. The reason is because Blue Origin... So SpaceX is like hell-bent on going to Mars. That's their thing. Go to Mars. Build a city on Mars. Multi-planetary, etc., etc. Jeff Bezos looks at this same, making life multi-planetary thing as a little bit differently. What Jeff Bezos wants to do is develop spaceflight architecture to build cities in space, not cities on Mars. Right? And basically mine other planets, not Earth, mine other planets to make rocket fuel and make infrastructure in space more reusable, like the stuff that actually flies through space. That's what Blue is trying to do. They're trying to make the things that actually fly up there more reusable. SpaceX is trying to build a vehicle that flies through space and is more reusable on a ground to space scale. Right? Starship. That's what they're trying to do. Damn, EJ was single for a second. That was your chance. Nope. Nope. You missed it. You missed your opportunity. I think between both of them, there's some pretty awesome stuff in store. Yeah. What company is building in Ligma space, though? Oh, I think that's the Sugandhi's Exploration Technologies. I think, yeah, it's called SugX. I think they're working on that. You got to pick up some of their stock. Buy low and sell high?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Is Blue looking to reuse fairings for New Glenn, or are you wrong? I haven't heard anything about them wanting to reuse them on paper, Archie, but I think they would. SpaceX basically proved that if you're going with a high cadence here, Blue wants to do a higher cadence of launch with New Glenn. And if you're going to do that, you need to reuse fairings. It's the same exact reason why the space shuttle reused SRBs. It's not that SRBs are inherently good at being reused. The reason why the shuttle reused SRBs is because manufacturing the casings for the SRBs is expensive and it takes time. Well, actually, it's not very expensive. It takes a lot of time. That's the thing. It takes time. Fairings take a lot of time to make. And if you want to fly a lot, you're looking at, like, if Factorio players, you're looking at a production bottleneck in fairings, just like the space shuttle looked at a production bottleneck with SRBs. The solution there was to flood the market with SRBs and casings. So you're always going to have SRBs moving down the assembly line. And if you make your assembly line big enough and you scale it correctly, you can support a flight cadence of 24 launches a year up to 48 launches a year, which is what they were trying to do with the space shuttle. It doesn't make economic sense to reuse SRBs or fairings if you're not flying a lot. It does make sense if you are flying a lot. That's why with SLS, they decided they're not going to reuse the SRBs, which I still think is dumb, personally. I still think that's stupid. But that's, once again, from SLS's lack of hardware rich. It's SLS's lack of hardware richness. There's not a lot of SLSs. There's not a lot of SRBs, so it doesn't make sense to reuse SRBs. SLS should be flying on a 4 flights a year cadence. That would make it good enough to be able to justify reuse of SRBs. Yeah. I'm tempted to make that a YouTube short. Oh, God. Cryptech, 63-month resub. Thank you. Would the composite SRBs be harder to refurbish? Yes. I'm not sure that... Pigzig, I don't think that those can be reused. The SRBs were made out of steel for this exact reason. The steel the steel... I mean, who knows? Who knows what those composite SRBs do. I'm not 100% sure that anybody's even recovered a composite casing SRB to see how the inner liner worked and the strain on everything. I don't think that they even bothered, because they're not supposed to be reused. It's supposed to be good for one and then one and done. Morning, are you excited for Titan Dragonfly Europa Clipper? Yeah, sorry, X-Wing. I answered it, but it was a late response to when you posted it. I like Titan Dragonfly, dude. There will be more missions like this in the future, but yeah, NASA can only, the science mission directorate isn't big enough to work on a bunch of things all at once, like a bunch of like premier missions all at once. I do like Europa Clipper though, because it's already in space. That's pretty cool. But Titan Dragonfly is going to be insane. We should send like 4 of them, dude. Just honest opinion. Oh, nice, Drummer. The Blorgen New Glenn reaction video is dropped on YouTube. Thanks, Drum. Appreciate it, man. I think Europa is more likely to have signs of life. Yeah, but Dragonfly is a helicopter, and helicopters are really cool. Am I wrong? No, I'm not. Helicopters are cool. Just build a bigger factory. You know what the crazy thing about that is? Somebody at SpaceX login basically looked at this and said, we could expand our factory, or we could just try to reuse these things. We could just try to get them back, and trying to get them back proved to be a more cost-effective option, which is hilarious to me. Because, like I said, the space shuttle came to the same conclusion with SRBs. Your bottleneck, your long lead items, you don't scale that, you try to reuse them. Yeah, Space Shuttle came to the same conclusion. Interestingly enough, with a different component. But yeah, same conclusion. That's why the PepCon explosion happened, guys. Because they were scaling to be able to build, to have enough casings and solid propellant, enough ammonium perchlorate and hydroxyl terminated polybutadiene to basically support 48 Space Shuttle missions a year. Right? The PepCon explosion happened because when Challenger happened, they stopped the entire production chain. And they had 48 SR, well, actually, technically double that, right? Right? 96 SRBs, RSRBs worth of propellant sitting in the factory when it popped. The space shuttle was supposed to launch. It launched 9 times in 1985. it was supposed to launch 24 times in 1986, and it was supposed to launch 48 times in 1987. Pretty cool, huh? They were going to do it if some bozo didn't decide to launch it with weather constraint violations. It would have done it. I'm convinced it would have done it. They had DoD funding behind them. Of course it would have done it. We almost got the space shuttle operating like Falcon 9 does now. It was close. We almost did it. It's just that one idiot that made that decision to launch January 28th, 1986 when it was too cold and too windy because he didn't want to look like an idiot. Screwed us. The repercussions of that we still feel today. How long does that type of fuel last in storage? In perpetuity? Good question, Rourke. The HTPB and ammonium perchlorate with aluminum stabilizers is designed to have a 30-year shelf life. You know why? We already had the infrastructure to be able to scale solid rocket propellant to this point. Take a guess why. I'm serious. Take a guess. Why would we have a lot of this stuff? Enough to be able... the propellant has a shelf life of 30 years. ICBMs, baby. Oh, yeah. What does an ICBM do? It sits in its silo all day. 30-year shelf life on solid rocket propellant? Yeah. Minimizes maintenance on your SRBs. Yep. That's why the shuttle had SRBs, because it was designed to use the production lines that we had for ICBMs. That's how they were able to seemingly scale up shuttle missions so quickly. Because your shuttle first stage, it's a 1.5 stage to orbit. The SRBs use the same propellant as ICBMs. So you had a lot of propellant on hand. Make sense? That's why they did that. That's why they chose SRBs for the shuttle. There was a Minotaur launch, a Minotaur 4 launch, guys. I think it was like 5 years ago. And it launched and it worked. It was a great launch. It launched out of Wallops. That Minotaur launch, the casing was from 1987. It was built in 1987 as an ICBM, and we used it to launch. The DoD used it to launch a payload into space. Is that nuts, dude? Yeah, it was like built in 87 or 88. It's built during the Cold War, and it launched like 5 years ago. Thanks for the information. Sorry about the trouble. Don't worry about it, Xavier. It's all good, man. Like I said, dude, I'll talk with you guys about what I think NASA's doing. I'll talk with you guys about spaceflight policy. I can't let the stream devolve into conversations about political rhetoric. I can't have that happen. If we want to stay factual and we want to be a beacon of sanity in this, quite frankly, insane political environment that's happened, basically over the last 5 to 10 years, I don't want none of that. We can't bring that here. We have to be a beacon of sanity. It is very important to me to stay factually correct. All right? Well, I don't want to devolve this stream into, oh my God, did you see what Elon said? I don't want that. I don't do that here. We don't do that. We talk about production and scaling and industry and spaceflight policy and technical specs. That's what we do here. With a little bit of brain rot sprinkled on top. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just enough to make it fun. Read previous. What's up, Trey? Why don't we see more SRB first stage rockets?
Oh, this is space. I'm in space.
It really depends on what you're trying to do. Hey, Pristine Pineapple. 5 subs. Thank you very much. There's a lot that has to do with it. SRBs have a lot of vibration. SRBs let out a lot of freedom very, very quickly. They're very good as a supplemental, attachable rocket motors. So, like, if you need to get a little more kick out of your first stage, you put a solid rocket motor on the side, like what ULA does. It's very good for that. But SRBs, because they let out a lot of freedom real fast, introduce a lot of vibration. They shake a lot. They rumble hard.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Yeah, they introduce a ton of vibration, and that's bad for sensitive payloads on top. I mean, amongst other things. SRBs do take a long time to make because the way they put the propellant in there is like casting concrete. You have to do a pour, right? And then you have to let that pour cure, just like concrete. It's the same idea, only with explodey Play-Doh instead of concrete. Now, because of that, SRBs take a little bit of time to produce. It doesn't really make sense from like a commercial on-demand launch entity like Rocket Lab or SpaceX or, maybe Stoke in the future or Firefly to utilize this kind of technology, because the commercial market changes very, very quickly and you can get left in the dust if you're not careful. SRBs don't really afford you that kind of flexibility in your architecture for providing like on-demand launch services. Also, you also do not want air bubbles in your solid rocket boosters. Yeah, Dink, that's right. Just like you don't want air bubbles in your concrete. They have to like vibrate the SRB to get all the air pockets out. That's the reason why they throw aluminum flake into SRBs as an explosion stabilizer to keep the boom boom that's happening inside nice and uniform. Because if there's an air pocket and the solid rocket booster hits that air pocket, you're inadvertently introducing oxidizer into your mixture and screwing with the chamber pressure that way. Yeah, that's the reason why they put aluminum flakes in SRBs, to eliminate that potential problem. The aluminum flakes make a nice uniform explosion. Yeah, it's literally an explosion stabilizer. Pretty cool, huh? You need the boom boom to be nice and uniform. If the boom boom is not uniform, you're going to get a sporadic chamber pressure inside of your SRB. You don't want that. This makes physics very angry. Uniform boom boom. That's an industry term, dang it. Oh, we got a tweet from Administrator Senator Representative Nelson. Oh, Bill left a letter for Rook. To the 15th Administrator of NASA, January 20th, 2025, NASA HQ. By the time you read this, you will have received a gift, the remarkable privilege you now share with 14 others, the extraordinary honor as administrator to stand and serve with the NASA wizard. I'm not doing this. All right. From my time on board the Space Shuttle Columbia on STS-61C, from my work as the senior senator from the state of Florida, from my decades representing the Great Space Coast, I thought I understood when I first stood where you stand now just how remarkable the NASA workforce is. But in the years I've worked with this team, the finest in the world, my admiration for their sense of service, much like NASA's capability to do the impossible, has reached new bounds. The NASA family embodies the can-do spirit that makes our nation exceptional. America is leading humanity back to the moon, onwards to Mars, and into a golden age of space exploration. The Artemis campaign has taken to the heavens. Once. The James Webb Space Telescope has opened its eyes to unveil the secrets, the wonders, and the majesty of the universe. New things are possible, and more things are possible. That's thanks not only to the spectacular science and marvelous technology at our fingertips, so much of which is made in America. It's thanks also to the power and promise of NASA's partnerships with great American companies and great nations. Powered by these commercial and international partnerships, NASA will continue to propel American leadership and American values forward on Earth, in the skies, and in the stars. These last 4 years and steps we have taken to power NASA as an indispensable pillar of American innovation, ingenuity, and imagination have led to the framework that my team and I have left for you. That is the framework we build upon from my predecessor, just as my predecessors built on the framework that came before his. That tells you something about NASA. That's a fragment, by the way. There is a continuity of purpose at the beating heart of this agency that we rarely see anywhere else. It speaks to NASA's power to unite us as Americans. Hey, Beating, what's up? Linear boom boom versus omnidirectional boom boom. That's right, Andrew. That's a good way of saying that. Yep. How does NASA unite us? Through the people of NASA, listen to them, trust in them. They understand to their core how to make the impossible real in our time. Just as one man did when he said the words, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. And the others too." It's one of my favorite speeches of all time. There's a special power that space has, that NASA has, to bring together the nations of Earth. Whether we come from different parties or from different continents, we find common ground when we look to the stars. Where we go to space to learn the secrets of the universe, but in the process, we learn about something else. We learn about ourselves. That was something I saw when I looked back at Earth from the window of a spacecraft. As I orbited the Earth, I saw a beautiful, colorful, magnificent creation, suspended in nothing. And when I looked back at our home, I didn't see borders. I didn't see division. I did not see religious division, and I did not see political division. I saw that we are all in this together as citizens of the planet Earth. How rare is it to find a place like NASA, a place whose mission is nonpartisan and whose support is bipartisan. And because NASA keeps that truth at the center of its work, I was moved by the camaraderie, respect, and support we received from our allies in Congress. I hope you revel in your time at NASA. When you walk the halls and the lots, the control rooms and the assembly buildings, the laboratories and the runways of this special space agency, when you marvel at the new spacecraft, aircraft, possibilities, and dreams taking shape, when you gaze out at the launch pads along Kennedy Space Center and see in one grand sweep the sites where Friendship 7 and Apollo 11 took to the heavens, where Artemis 1 took to the heavens, and where the next Artemis missions will return American astronauts of a new century to the surface of the moon. When you think of the astronauts we have lost and the great cause of exploration we carry forward in their memory, when you take in that panorama, you get a view that might be one of the rarest sights on Earth. You can see, with unusual clarity, the past and the future at the same time. And the past and the future meet right here at NASA. And here in this room, where this letter has now reached you, I say this not to elevate the importance of the office of the administrator, but to reframe it. We are merely temporary stewards of this extraordinary space agency. Humanity's dream in the stars is bigger than any of us, bigger than any one person, any one nation, and any one generation. The work we do, the missions we launch, they transcend the length of a single administration and a single administrator. We work for the pioneers who came before us and the adventurers who will come after us. Our job, I believe, is to leave this space agency even better than we found it. For it is the students of the Artemis generation that will lead our world into a spectacular new future. And our job is to show them the way. Our job is to lift them as they ride to the stars. As a former administrator, as a proud American, I'm rooting for you. Your success is NASA's success, and NASA's success is the nation's success. I'm at your service to help in any way that I can. Here at NASA, humanity's capacity to discover and America's capacity to lead shines bright. May you and the NASA team lead our world into dazzling new dreams. May you sail on the cosmic sea to far-off cosmic shores. Onward and upward, Bill Nelson, 14th NASA Administrator. That was good, man. It was real good. That was beautiful. It's beautiful, man. Billy. It's good, man. It's a good speech. Let's go. shall we? The cosmic shores await. Let's roll. Oh, that was awesome. That was a good speech. That was really good. That was really good, man. that was really good. I like that. Onward and upward. It's good stuff, man. You know, Bill's administration in retrospect, I had some criticism for, but I, on the whole, was cheering him on for the most part. There were some times where I didn't like what he really had to say. But I will say that, you know, in retrospect, he wasn't given a lot to work with. You know what I mean? He wasn't given a lot to work with, and I think he carried the torch of NASA with class. A lot of class, like given the circumstances, right? Carrying it through a pandemic and stuff is what I'm talking about. You really can't, it's hard to reach for the stars when a pandemic is dragging you down, you know? So I think given the circumstances, he did pretty dang well. You know, it's hard when you're put in between a rock and a hard place like this, you know? The ISS being COVID-free is a huge accomplishment. Yeah, not bad, right? Yeah, not bad. I'll talk more about that speech during space news and stuff. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good speech. I liked it. And as always, President Kennedy gets referenced. And I'd just like to say once again, if you want to understand what NASA needs to do and where NASA needs to be, listen to President Kennedy's speech, his speech at Rice University. Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. That is what NASA needs to do. That's how NASA needs to be run. It is one of my, honestly, it's one of my all-time favorite speeches ever. That it perfectly encapsulates NASA and what they need to do. Because that challenge was served to organize and measure the best of our skills. Yeah. I've seen that. Oh, there's the video for it. Thanks, Jim. It's such a good speech, Joe. Like, it's so dang good. You know, talking about the eyes of the world, which is a reference to Eisenhower. It's so good. He makes a reference to Eisenhower's speech about D-Day. The eyes of the world is upon you. You're about to embark on a great crusade, which that in itself is an amazing speech too. Eisenhower's speech to the troops right before D-Day. Yeah, the eyes of the world now looks to you to liberate Europe. Like, that's, he made a reference to Eisenhower in his speech. The eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon and the planets beyond. It's so good, man. It's so good, dude. Oh, I get emotional just thinking about it, dude. Damn. Anyway. It's ironic that in private, JFK didn't care much about space, but he recognized that it was important. Yeah. I mean, space is always important, Psycho. The way it's always been this way. We gotta, if we want the United States to be a beacon of humanity, right? Someone that's willing to push the boundaries of the human condition. space flight should have been funded at Apollo levels of funding since the 70s. Do we want to be that guy? We want to be the role model for people like this? That is one thing that we have to do. It is imperative. A nation that looks to be the role model for the world has to lead. And if we're not leading spaceflight, we ain't no role model. I don't mean to derail the stream, but time for Derail Valley? It's really funny how you seem to think that you get to choose what game I want to play today. I thought Tuesdays were Derail. I don't ever remember saying this. I think you should do a napping stream. I'm not tired, May. I got enough. Jay Heels, that's another story. Okay. All I can do is commentate about spaceflight and where I think we need to be from a spaceflight perspective. I can't speak to anything else. That's right, Lunprod, and that's what that speech is all about. The exploration of space will continue, whether we choose to be a part of it or not. We need to be a part of it. We need to lead it. For the eyes of the world, now look into space, to the moon and the planets beyond. He talks about that in that speech. It's very poignant. It's still poignant. 50 plus years later. Almost 60 years later. Should we just pour one out for the pillar of autumn? You gonna do me like that, Pete? You gonna do me like that? It's messed up, man. EJ's secretly a Kennedy. That accent is a little too good. So, Rourke, the Kennedys are from Brookline, Massachusetts. I grew up in Newton, which is the next town over. I've heard that accent my entire life, dude. I don't know why I don't have it as much. But then again, I try not to talk like a local here on the internet. So, take for that what you will. So you're saying there's a chance you're a long lost Kennedy. I am no, Badger. I'm no, negative, negative. No. Oh man, Elfish. I knew someone was gonna say that. You jackwagon. You haven't had the odd desire to run booze? No. So when are we getting an updated booster catch GIF in Mission Control? Oh, I don't know. Hey, you Hellfish, you say nothing about that. That never happened. They were all on vacation. Okay? At the risk of restarting a tangent, that center video, dude. Remember, this was Starlink 11.8 launch coverage. Kind of turned into an inadvertent space and rocket review. Anyway. Within the Jared term, I want to see a human walking on the moon in your mission control. Not out of the realm of possibility, Trey. When is EJ getting a pilot's license? It's going to be really hard for me to do that journey. I'm colorblind. Mild deuteronomically colorblind. That's a no-no with flying. That doesn't mean I couldn't get it. It would just make it a lot more difficult. That's the reason why I don't fly airplanes. What do I want to play today? I kind of wanted to finish working in Workers, dude. Yeah. It really sucks because I really like airplanes and things that fly. And I basically barred from that, which that blows a lot. Now, that doesn't mean that I can't fly. I've looked into it. It doesn't mean that I couldn't. It basically means night flying is basically off the table permanently for me, which kind of sucks, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Just go straight to IFR. Yeah, no, you can't do that. Yeah, I've talked to pilots about this. I can't. IFR is completely off the table. Which sucks, man. Isn't China capable of a manned lunar landing? Do they have everything set up for it? Sig, I have not seen anything that suggests that they're getting a person near the moon anytime soon, dude. You can get a daytime PPL. Exactly, friend. I'm barred from a commercial license. I could never do it. Unless I could really prove that I know what I'm doing on the flight deck at night. IFR, unless I could really prove it, like prove that I know that the color that I'm seeing isn't the color that my eyes are telling my brain, which I mean, I could figure it out. I'm sure I could. Yeah, it kind of sucks, dude. But once again, I don't think that would ever be off the table. I would love to fly. I love airplanes. Airplanes are the best, man. Anyway. I'm going to jog the VOD over on the YouTube side of things. I don't want to switch to Workers. I want to see if we can get that car plan up and running. So why is colorblindness prohibited for flying? Because planes use a lot of things that are colored in certain colors that you need to be able to see. And if you don't, it's easy to get confused. Would you fly with a co-pilot? I mean, sure. Shinny, I guess, but... Anyway, I'm going to jog the VOD, and we will go from there. I will be right back 1 second. We'll fire up Workers.